Martin and John Candy just met.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones.
They have nothing in common, except the next 72 hours.
Stick with me.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yes, I do.
Steve Martin,
Where's your other hand?
John Candy,
Between two pillows.
planes, trains, and automobiles.
Those aren't pillows.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hey, my friends, and welcome to another episode, the inaugural episode.
We are setting sail.
What's on sale?
What's on sale?
Well, we're near Black Friday because it's almost American Thanksgiving,
this
kids.
is true.
And I am your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, Double D, David Denoyer.
Greetings and early
Which,
happy
by the way,
Thanksgiving?
it is, but the worst way to show your thankfulness is to be French.
Yes.
So I'm afraid we're going to
I'm sorry about that.
We're going to have to ask you to leave. But no, we're here today to talk about easily one of my favorite movies. I'm not a big fan of saying a movie is my quintessential favorite.
Yeah.
Or even the best movie ever.
Yeah.
That's something I'm not comfortable with. But this is, without a doubt, always in my top 5.
100%.
If not always in maybe even my top 3.
Yeah.
With stuff like Terminator 2 or maybe even a Die Hard, depending on my mood.
Yeah.
But I will say that no matter what my mood, I always love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
It's a masterpiece in every sense of the word, in my opinion, and it's also like a quintessential film to our friendship. Like that's what I've always held. You and I's friendship, you son of a bitch.
Interesting. First time hearing of this.
Oh, is that a fact? So there's no record of us, doing anything in regards to possibly, buying T-shirts together that were Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or even doing a photo shoot with our good buddy Randy Jennings.
Please, no, David.
Just say it.
No, David and I, one time, years ago, we weren't feeling the holiday spirit.
We were not.
So we decided to, well, how do you remember it
So
coming
I
together?
remember it coming about to where we were both having like really shit days, if not really shit weeks. And
in November.
In November.
In November.
And we were, I don't know if we had done our Thanksgiving marathon at this point yet or not. I don't know if that was a thing or not.
No, because at that point we were under the foolish belief that there were only like 3 Thanksgiving movies.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah. And so I was at work and I texted you and I was like, what would you think about doing the Planes, Trains photo shoot? Because for one, that's an image that we both cry whenever we see, but also
he's referring to the image of John Candy and Steve Martin holding the trunk, which we'll get to all of that. All the hits are coming right up.
But yeah, so I texted you, and your response back was, if you can get a trunk, we'll do it.
Yeah, because I was like, if you can locate a trunk,
which was the key thing.
What is the thing that you don't have laying around is John Candy's incredibly memorable trunk,
which I found out, by the way, that John Hughes had it. He took it off set and had it put in his office, like in one of his offices in Wichita, of all places.
He had an office in Wichita?
He had an office in Wichita, apparently. So that was where it was. I found out that little tidbit of trivia earlier.
Little nugget. That little detail.
But yeah, you said, if I get a trunk, we'll do it. And it just so happened that I knew a couple people, and I texted one of them.
He's like, I know a guy.
I was like, hey, do you by chance have like a traveling trunk? And they're like, I think I do. Why? And I was like, could I possibly borrow it? And they're like, yeah, if you come get it. So I texted you and I was like, we're on. And then I think it was the next day, if not 2 days later, we met with Randy and took all those photos.
Yes. So once you found the trunk, I immediately jumped into action and I went to thrift stores and started finding the closest thing I could find to John Candy's wardrobe. I ended up, the only thing I couldn't find was a big blue parka.
Yeah, you wanted to find the parka really
I ended up having to buy a brand new one, which was like $70.
Yeah.
And I was like, why have I done this? And
I think the only other thing you wanted was the hat. I think the hat was...
The hat I had to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And we also, I mean... See, now I'm getting really nerdy. I had to decide which hat, because he actually goes through a few different hats.
3 different ones, yeah.
So I chose the aviator one with the flaps.
Yep.
And yeah, the rest is history. We had all these pictures done. And I don't know, that was a very wholesome moment in our friendship.
Absolutely was.
So, but Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, in my opinion, not only the ultimate American Thanksgiving film, but one of the best films of one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, John Hughes.
Absolutely.
I think clearly one of his best films.
100%.
And his first film to be mature.
Yeah. No,
in that
no teens.
He was doing a lot of films with teenagers. He was doing a lot of The Breakfast Club, and they were all great films.
Yeah.
But to have him have a space for John Candy and Steve Martin was a big moment.
Big deal. And I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is one of those movies that I didn't really fall into a space with, of like having it be in my repertoire of films probably until my teens. I actually have an interesting story about my first experience with the movie, which we'll get to.
Which we won't talk about. No, well, I can't lie though. Actually, I didn't see Planes, Trains for the first time until I was in my 20s.
Okay, yeah.
So it was not on the holiday radar, as it were.
Well, and I think so many people forget that it's not a Christmas movie. It's a Thanksgiving movie, because I think it gets lopped in with the Christmas lineup all the time.
Does it?
I feel like it does, because that was
maybe
that whenever I would go, because whenever the Christmas movies would roll out at like Walmart or Meijer, I would always go check out those, because they'd have the displays with all of them. And 90% of the time, you would find Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with all the Christmas movies.
Well, and I mean, it is a holiday time movie. There's a lot of snow in it. I mean, I think it could be enjoyed any time of year, but of course, you and I almost exclusively enjoy it on Thanksgiving evening.
Yes, we do.
Along with Dutch, another John Hughes pen, highly. Oh, that one's highly underrated.
Absolutely.
Planes, Trains, I think mostly gets the due it deserves.
I think so.
I think most people really like Planes, Trains.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't invite our guest.
Oh yes, go get him.
My very own Del Griffith, that's John Candy's character in Planes, Trains. My very own Del Griffith. What are these called now? They're like it's a plush. It's a plush, but it's like a wrestling buddy plush.
Yeah.
And the way that they marketed this, I'm not plugging it in any way. It was an Etsy thing.
That's out of.
Well, it's out. Yeah, I know, because it went out. They sold out in 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah.
I remember because I was sitting in the parking lot of my post office mailing something, and I dropped everything I did to order this little guy. But I remember in the marketing
make sure he has the.
Oh yeah. Hey, I know you. But what they said on there that made me want him so badly was, they said, if you love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as much as we do, then here's somebody to give a hug to when the movie's over.
When the movie's over.
And I love it. So it's literally Del in his outfit with his red mittens. He's got his blue jacket, his scarf. The details very good. His boots are undone.
Yeah.
Like they are during most of the film. But I'll tell you, I'll start with my Planes, Trains story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I first saw Planes, Trains was during what I would call the dark times of my life.
Yes.
I like how you're like, of course.
Because it seems like not to put you on the spot, but it seems like you had a lot of great film discoveries during the dark times, even though the dark times refer to when you didn't see a lot of movies.
Well, okay, no. So those are like cute dark times. That was like times when I didn't go. No, I'm talking about dark times as in like, there was a year that I was unemployed.
Yeah.
And really depressed, and basically, and I'm not saying this with any gravitas, but all I did was download movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer that if you can afford to pay for movies, you should.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're watching it, on Tubi or something.
Yeah.
But I would just download movies, and during that period of time, I spent the holidays alone.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time I watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was by myself in my bedroom on my computer screen while I ate a turkey sandwich on Thanksgiving.
That's a way to
ahead, laugh.
It.
Go ahead, laugh.
No, that's a hell of a way to discover
laugh
it.
To parent boy.
I'm not going to laugh to parent boy. Wow. That's a new one. I'm proud of you.
Oh, I've been saving that one for a rainy day. Oh, so no, but that was the first time I watched it.
Okay.
And all I really remembered about it was how hard I cried at the end.
Yeah.
And that made me go, wow, this is a 10 out of 10. And then I bought it on Blu-ray like a year later, and I started watching it every year. And, but I think it really hit its critical mass for me when you and I bonded over it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was a big moment for me.
Yeah.
When you and I would talk about it, you were like, no, it's like one of the best movies ever. And I was like,
Absolutely.
somebody else.
Well, because I remember you used to basically signify the end of Thanksgiving and start of Christmas with it because you would decorate your tree while you watched it, if I remember correctly.
I did that a few times.
Yeah. Because I really can't even remember when the first like actual Thanksgiving Planes, Trains, and Dutch double feature happened. But
that was probably 11 years ago.
Is it 11 years ago?
I mean, as of the recording of this in 2023.
Yeah.
It was probably 11. It might have even been 12. No, wait.
Actually, it probably was 2012 or 13. Yeah.
Let me think. It would have been 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. Henrique math. I'm like, who was I dating? That's how I know when it was.
That's totally fair.
So, and real quick, so since, we are broadcasting, quote unquote, live.
Yes.
Dave, I want you to do this. Mime with me.
Okay.
Hand on your microphone.
Yes.
Bring it over to the front of your mouth more.
Okay.
No.
Oh.
Over.
Oh, over.
Other way.
Got it.
Towards you.
Got it.
Keep going.
Got it.
Yeah. Now
Got
point it toward, now twist it towards your mouth.
Okay.
There you go. Now go like this and push your nose up and say, I'm a podcaster. No, but anyway, so that all being said, it is the Thanksgiving time of year when we're recording this.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Thanksgiving Hawaiian shirt, which people are always surprised about. Believe it or not, as sad as that story was, and I've spent 4 Thanksgivings completely alone, which I can't really say I recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But that being said, I'm not black pilled on Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving a lot.
I do too.
What do you have to be thankful for?
I mean, good point.
Hey!
Just till now I have no explanation. But no.
That's for you, Dave.
So you want to hear my first experience of Planes, Trains, which actually wasn't what actually sold me on the movie.
Actually, no. Because I was in the middle of saying something.
Well, then go ahead.
Actually, I was just going to say something. I think this will lead into your point.
Okay.
All I was going to say is I actually love Thanksgiving. I love the concept of stopping all of the BS.
Yeah.
And being thankful for the things you have. And I love Christmas very, very much. And people are going to find that out as we cover a bunch of Christmas movies in December.
That's happening.
But I love Thanksgiving. I hate when it gets overlooked. I like having a few weeks before we go crazy with the Christmas stuff where everything gets to be yellow and orange and brown.
Yeah.
And so that's all I really wanted to say is I love Thanksgiving. I think that, and I think anybody who, whenever I talk to somebody who gets all like, actually, the Pilgrims were blah, 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 blah. Those people are so annoying.
Yeah.
Because I have too many things to say.
I get that.
So I'll just go with a very, very simple.
Enrique is right and also handsome.
So, and if the voice of God says it, then it's true. But no,
this is true.
I love Thanksgiving, and I think that, and I'm glad that we have a little movie.
Yeah.
That is heartfelt and fun and memorable and stars excellent cast members. And it's about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because it could have just as easily been turned into a Christmas movie.
Easily, very easily.
And by the way, there is a history of Thanksgiving movies being turned into Christmas movies before they're made.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, one of my favorite modern Christmas movies, Almost Christmas.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a Thanksgiving movie, which is actually,
wow.
Here's the thing, which is actually
God,
why,
I love that movie.
Which is actually why sweet potato pie is a lead thing. Now, not that people don't eat sweet potato pie for Christmas, but that was, it's much more a Thanksgiving thing.
That totally makes sense. So, and then if you haven't seen Almost Christmas, that is a movie that I cannot recommend enough. That is a fantastic, that was like just one that we stumbled into in theaters, wasn't it?
Well, you don't stumble into a movie in theaters. No. I saw the trailer in theaters with you. I was like, wow, this looks really fun. Yeah. And then we went and saw it, and we really enjoyed it. Same with Christmas with the Coopers.
Christmas with the Cranks.
No.
Love the Coopers.
Love the Coopers.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, you're right. Love the Coopers was another one that came out around that time that I really enjoyed. But no, so I mean, I understand, And as a filmmaker who's I've made Thanksgiving movies and Christmas movies.
Yeah.
There's a lot more money in the Christmas movies.
Absolutely.
And a lot more appeal. The Christmas movies can sell overseas.
Yeah.
There are a lot more area. I mean, nobody celebrates Thanksgiving the way we do and in the time period we do. I mean, even Canadian Thanksgiving, I mean, what do they have to be thankful for? No, but it's in October.
Yeah.
And ours is in November, right around Christmas. So anyway, I just wanted to say big ups. I think Thanksgiving doesn't get enough love.
Yeah.
And I put my money where my mouth is. I made a Thanksgiving movie called Awkward Thanksgiving.
Yes, you did.
And I'm still very proud of it because it was a movie about families and togetherness and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
So, but on that note, David, I sincerely would love if you would please leave.
Pretty sure you've heard this story. I'm not leaving.
I just asked you to leave.
No, I'm not leaving.
He didn't even listen. Man, I'd swear. No, I would love to hear the story.
I think you've heard it before, but
then I'll turn off my headphones.
So then you'll leave. So it had to have been circa 2000. Let me think here for a second. It had to have been either 2008 or 2009, and by this point, I had my permit, or did I have my license? I think I had my license. I had my license at this point. And
it's like watching Boyhood. We're having a great time here.
I had my license at this point, and our Hollywood Video was right by our Kroger, and I was allowed to go get dinner from Wendy's and go to Hollywood Video, but my parents were very strict about not going on the interstate way because there was a turn to go the back roads to our house. And they were like, make sure you take the long way around. Don't go across the interstate way. And I was like, okay, yeah, I won't. I totally did.
He's a bad son.
So backing up a little bit. So I go to Hollywood Video and I pick up, by this point, I had really gotten into going into a lot of the classics I hadn't seen. So I had a list, thanks to IMDb, that I was kind of marking off. And I know two titles in particular I got this round was Running Scared, the Billy Crystal action comedy.
Okay,
and,
I like that one. That's
Planes,
a fun
Trains,
movie.
and Automobiles, which I'd never seen before. I'd heard about it, and I think I'd seen a couple of scenes on TV, but was super curious. So I got those two movies. And I go out and I cross on the interstate and I get into an accident. I get into a fender bender.
Oh my God.
A car hits me because I turned left on a red light. So it's entirely my fault.
I mean, I would have blamed you regardless, but yeah.
Long story short, so I had my rentals. I didn't end up getting food because my parents got called. My mom had to come down with the car and everything.
And the real tragedy was no Wendy's.
No Wendy's. Right. So I have these 2 or 3 movies. And by this point in the week, like I know that I have to go in front of the courts because I have to go get my license reviewed and the accident reviewed and everything. So I remember watching Planes, Trains and being like, that was fun. And then I don't really remember much else about it because I think I was just in a state of mind that I was just worried about my license at that point. So fast forward about 2 years later, I'm at Walmart, like I said, and I got into their holiday selection and I see Planes, Trains is with them, and it's the Those Aren't Pillows edition.
Okay, yeah.
So I didn't have it, so I was like, well, shit, I remember liking this, but I couldn't remember a damn thing about it. So I bought it along with some other movies, took it home and watched it. And I remember bawling my eyes out in my bedroom when that shot comes of them carrying the trunk at the end. And from that point on, I was like, this is just a great movie. Like, it's got so much into it with the heart, the laughs, and I mean, we'll get into all that. And that was basically when I was like, well, shit, I really, really like this movie. And I was kind of bummed I hadn't seen it earlier. And then I kind of started showing it to the family, too, who had seen it previously, but also not a long time.
Well, it was probably on cable or Cinemax or what have you.
Well, my parents even said they rented it when they were living together early on. So they had gotten it, a VHS copy of it and watched it.
Yeah, they were like, let's watch this one. She's having a baby's too close to home. Let's watch this other one.
So, but yeah, that was basically my initial introduction into it, but it didn't take until another couple years for me to pick up on what a freaking phenomenal movie this is. And I mean, where do we start is the question.
And a deeply rewatchable film,
absolutely.
Too. Well, first of all, my first question to you is, when you saw Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, were you already a John Hughes fan?
Yes, absolutely. Because by this point, I had access to the video cabinet that I've mentioned before, and we had a copy of The Breakfast Club. I grew up watching 16 Candles and Weird Science on Comedy Central basically anytime I could catch it.
My first exposure to Weird Science was the USA TV series.
TV show?
Yeah. That made me want to find the movie.
Yeah. Actually, I think I knew about the TV series before I knew about the movie, so that totally tracks. So anyway, I really was into John Hughes early on, but I think I was mainly sticking to the staple of the Brat Pack, so 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, and like The other ones mixed in there that I can't think of all of a sudden. Pretty in Pink, and She's Having a Baby, like we mentioned. So, like,
yeah, I love She's Having a Baby. That's one that I think is underrated.
Absolutely. I didn't get to those later ones probably until the last like decade, I would say. And in my honest opinion, I think Hughes is just unbeatable when it comes to a producer, a writer, a director. I mean, the dude's resume, which again I'll get into here in a bit, is just absolutely nonstop, and I can't understand why people haven't seen a lot of his movies, especially. I mean, Planes, Trains has gotten its track, but
Hughes, my generation, which is a little bit older than your generation,
yeah,
in a lot of ways, Hughes wasn't known for his directing at that point. He was known for his writing and his producing, because we got Home Alone, from John Hughes and his production company, and I think that that's something really worth mentioning too.
Absolutely,
like, that made him a household name to me. Also, the Dennis the Menace movie.
Yep. Yeah, he has his resume, just to give you a taste if you didn't know. I mean, director of 16 Candles in 1984, Breakfast Club in 85, Weird Science the same year, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which actually has a lot of alumni in this movie too.
It's pronounced alumnus.
Alumnus. She's Having a Baby in 88, Uncle Buck 89, Curly Sue in 91. But then people don't realize his writing credits. He did Mr. Mom in 1983.
Which actually
so underrated.
I didn't know was the first John Hughes movie I loved.
Yeah.
Because I caught that on like Stars when I was probably 17. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
It's fantastic. And then National Lampoon's Vacation, he's the guy that penned the Griswolds. Like, he is the inventor of the Griswolds.
That was the other one I was trying to think of that, like, put him on the map.
Yeah. And then producing-wise, Pretty in Pink in 86, The Great Outdoors 88, Dennis the Menace, as Henrique mentioned, and then also one of my personal favorites that I've really come back around to love, even though it's pretty silly, is his remake of Miracle on 34th Street.
I love that. Well,
it's so good.
I'm so sorry, David, that the remake of a movie about putting Santa Claus on trial was a little out there for you.
It was more so the fact, do you remember the text? I think it was a couple years ago when I was like, dude, you should revisit Miracle on 34th Street. And you're like, is it good? And I'm like, it's really good. And then you're like, it's a little silly, but it's a lot of fun. And I almost got offended. I was like, it's not silly. Like, it's heartfelt.
Look, I'm not, when it comes to Miracle on 34th Street, I'm just saying I found it a little hard to believe.
Yeah.
Like, how did they get the death penalty off the table so quickly in that courtroom? That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Santa. You're guilty.
And this state, we execute the mentally challenged.
I will say, if you haven't seen the original in a while, that's become like a go-to for me every year.
Well,
the black and white version.
I was blown away last year. I sat down and watched It's a Wonderful Life for the first time and for
even though it's not a Christmas movie.
No, it's a snowy, heartfelt movie. Well, there's a little Christmas in it.
Yeah, there's a little Christmas.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that one, I'll allow that one to be a Christmas movie simply because it always aired around
it was
Christmas.
synonymous with Christmas.
It became very much synonymous with Christmas. That was a film that became, for a while, public domain.
Yeah.
And because of its public domain status, it basically became... Night of the Living Dead was Halloween's public domain movie.
Yeah.
And then It's a Wonderful Life was Christmas's public domain movie.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that, actually. Like, and also It's a Wonderful Life was very panned at the time. But maybe we'll cover that someday. So
that would be a good one.
So John Hughes writes and directs Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
And he was even quoted as saying he wanted to make a more mature film.
And it's based off of a personal experience he had where he was actually in, I think he was either in Wichita or New York, but he had to get to one, and it took 5 days.
Well, I'm sure he had to get back to Chicago.
Yeah.
Because that's where he was famously
and
from.
It took 5 days for him to get back, and that was when he kind of got the inspiration for it. And penned the script in 3 days, mind you.
Well, yes, I believe that, but... Hughes had a lot of stories like that about like writing whole scripts in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
I think he really means the first draft.
Yeah.
But that's not me trying to negate that the dude was genius.
Oh, genius indeed. And also, not to mention the first draft, 149 pages, which we'll get to.
Yes, because last year we were treated to something we thought we would never get, which was all, and I do mean all, of the deleted scene.
We're missing one.
Well,
yeah.
Well, when it's over an hour, how long was
54 minutes of deleted scenes,
54 minutes of movie that we didn't have before.
On a 93-minute movie already,
Which I got to admit, as a filmmaker, there's a part of me that doesn't want to like that.
Yeah.
Because there's part of me that's like, but at the end of the day, John Hughes thought this was the better movie.
Yeah.
Like you and I were talking before we started the show about how you were mentioning, like, I wish that the John Candy stuff where he was like pretending to be Elvis and stuff in the bathroom, I wish it was in the movie. And my response was, I like that we didn't see him in the bathroom much. That way when Steve Martin goes to clean his face,
spoiler alert.
That way when he cleans his face, and realizes it's underwear and screams, it hits better.
So good.
But that being said, I'm a guy who will punch in the August 29th, 1997 into my Blu-ray of Terminator 2 so that I can see the ultimate cut that's everything edited back in.
Yeah.
Because there is, for me, and maybe this is this way for you, there is a point where I love a movie so much that I kind of lose objectivity.
Okay.
And instead of like having objectivity of like, oh, I really like this movie because it's this, at some point you fall so in love with the concept, you fall so in love with the backstory, you fall so in love with the characters, you just want as much of it as you can get.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Terminator 2. I feel that way about, there's one other movie that
Tremors.
Well, there's not a lot of extra stuff for Tremors. Dawn of the Dead. That's another film where like I'll watch the Mall Hours cut.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a completely different film.
Yeah, absolutely is. I think honestly too, what goes into with the release of the deleted scenes was it changed a lot of character motivations and just general attitudes.
I think that there's a very clear reason that they made those changes.
Yeah.
Because Dell is not likable a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I'll say this sincerely. I've done movies, produced and directed movies where my character was the comic relief. I did this flick called Alone in the Ghost House where my character was comic relief.
Yeah.
And when we were editing it, we probably cut out 70%.
Yeah, you said you cut a lot of your lines.
Because the problem is when you're filming, but when you're filming, you get as much raw material as you can.
Yeah.
You don't sit there and go like, let's not tell that joke. You just roll the camera and get it. But in post, as you're watching it, you're like, it's kind of exhausting and annoying, this guy spouting jokes every 5 seconds.
There's that.
So but then you're like, well, good news. We can choose the best ones.
Yeah.
And we can take those and keep those. Also, as you're watching it on film or on video or on screen or whatever, you get a better idea of how it played.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a major thing. I think John Hughes sat down with that work print and was like, it's a little much. He's coming off as too much.
Yeah.
But it is fun. It's fun
so
to feel
awesome
like you get to know the characters a little bit better.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So the IMDb synopsis for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles says a Chicago advertising man must struggle to travel home from New York for Thanksgiving with a lovable oaf of a shower curtain ring salesman as his only companion.
Well, I mean, a lovable oaf indeed.
Here's my rewrite.
Okay.
Neal Page, played by Steve Martin, is an ad executive on his way home to Chicago for Thanksgiving with his family when a snowstorm strands him in Wichita with loudmouth but well-meaning shower curtain ring salesman Del Griffith, played by John Candy, who joins Neal in an adventure to help Neal get home by any means or wheels necessary, where hilarity ensues and through time, Neal may just find a new friend.
Okay, here's mine. Man goes home for Thanksgiving. Almost doesn't.
There we go. Hey, I'll leave. That's fine.
If you don't mind, that would be lovely. We would really appreciate it. But no. I mean, that's a pretty solid way to nail down the movie.
Yeah. And I think honestly, where you need to start with this is understand where these two huge stars are in their careers. So Steve Martin at this point has done Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band in '78. He did the Muppet
David,
movie.
That's an album. That's not a movie.
It's a movie, and he does an Alice Cooper song in it too.
Gross.
Did the Muppet
Dave
movie?
Likes Alice Cooper.
He did the Muppet movie in '79. Does The Jerk in '79 as well. Then goes to do Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid in '82. Man with Two Brains in '83. Three Amigos in '86. Little Shop of Horrors in '86 as well. And Roxanne in '87. So at this point, Martin's on fire. So naturally, he is a big name grab for this movie. John Candy is in The Silent Partner, which is a movie I want to show you soon.
I mean, I'm always down to watch some Steve Martin.
John Candy.
Oh. Listen, you mumble a lot. Go on.
John Candy. Silent Partner in 1978. Of course, Second City TV in 76. He does an appearance in Stripes in 81.
Some people might not know it's SCTV is what it was most famously as.
Yes.
But yeah, it stood for Second City.
National Lampoon's Vacation in 83. He does Splash in 84. Brewster's Millions in 85. Summer Rental in 85. Also Little Shop of Horrors in 86. And then Spaceballs 87 before this. So he hasn't even done Great Outdoors or Uncle Buck yet.
Well, that makes sense. Wow. That actually surprises me.
Yeah.
Because Del Griffith is a character that's so subtle, but so like thick and memorable. And when I say thick, I mean like a tapestry.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of layers to him.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that came first.
Yeah.
Because I would almost imagine, Uncle Buck's another classic, another movie that'll really make you love John Candy.
Yes. God, I love Uncle Buck.
Although I've come close in the past to liking Uncle Buck as much as Planes, but I'm just not quite there.
I get that.
Unless we're talking about the Uncle Buck TV series with Kevin Meaney.
Uncle Buck.
Where
parents are dead.
Whoa!
Here comes Uncle Buck. Wow. Who thought that was a good movie?
I'm going to flip a pancake with a shovel.
Also, we missed your parents.
Yeah, your parents are gone.
Oh my God.
So, but no, that is an interesting thing. So he was on his
way up,
to a well, and it's also important to point out that John Candy never reached his peak.
No, unfortunately not.
Sadly, he passed away way too young.
Yeah.
In the 90s. You probably have it written down.
92, I believe.
1992. Yeah. So he never even got to hit that like massive stardom he was heading towards.
Yeah.
Which is, it really is a shame.
It's a shame. And I mean, he left behind such a great body of work, though, for us to enjoy. But yeah, there is definitely pieces there still of stuff you hear about, well, he was going to be optioned for this, or he was going to be up for this. And it's like,
I'm so mad we never got to see him be Batman.
Oh, well, that would have been interesting.
Da, 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 da. Hey, you can hurt me.
Oh, God.
You can kill my parents. But I'm the genuine article. What you see is what you get. I have little bat ears and no nipples on my chest piece yet.
And I think, honestly, going back to Candy as well, is just we have such a lovable character with him in this movie that when the tragedy strikes, it just hits you so hard with his character.
Yes. That's what makes the movie special to me.
Yeah. It is absolutely a tour de force with these two, their comedic timing, playing off each other. The chemistry is just spot on. And I mean, what I really, really love most about Planes, Trains is it's a road trip movie, but it's not like a free road trip movie. Like there is an assignment in place. Like they have to go from point A to point B.
Usually road trip movies do have a purpose like of where they're heading.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, I know that I'm a little bit more of a globetrotter than you.
Yeah.
But have you ever failed to get home?
Not that I can recall right now.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, the older you get, the further, well, until, a few years ago with the airlines got a little funky. But for a while, the older or the further into time you got, the less likely it was you'd have those incidents where you just don't get home.
Yeah.
But I would be flying out of Chicago's really bad because your O'Hare is right off the lake.
Yeah.
So you could literally be told like, and the runway's frozen.
Yeah.
And you're like, how's it frozen already? They're like, lake effect. And you're like, I guess I'm gonna die. But so, I mean, I've had those incidents. One time I was coming back to Ohio after a long stint away, and I was in West Virginia visiting some friends. I needed a rest, and I was eating dinner with them, and a blizzard came in.
Oh, Jesus.
That turned out to be about 10 times as bad as they thought it was going to be.
Oh, God.
Now, when I say it was 10 times as bad, what I mean is they were closing the on-ramps to the highway.
Holy shit.
So I had to jump in my car, ditch my friends, be like, thanks guys for everything. Thanks for the hospitality. Bye. And they were all like, why don't you just stay one more night? I was hungry to go home.
Yeah.
I had been living away from home for 3 years. I missed my mother. I missed my friends. So I jumped in my car and drove as snow was pounding down. And every time I found an on-ramp, it was closed.
Wow.
I ended up, no joke, in the pouring snow, driving on a 1-lane road through a farming area.
Yeah.
Found an on-ramp to the highway that hadn't been closed, got up on there, and drove the rest of the way to Ohio on Interstate 70.
Jesus.
And when I stopped to get gas about 2 hours later, my car was encased in ice. No, but I mean like completely, like I had to take a knife and pop my gas thing open in order to put fuel in. Because it was a literal like
sheet of ice.
It looked like a dome of glass over the entire car.
Wow.
So I had to sit there and go, wham! And then when it cracked a little, I would take my knife and it would go poof. Thank goodness that Volkswagen had already been through hell with me. But like there's things like that. I've had car trouble in the middle of nowhere and had to sleep at the rest area and wait for that stuff happens. And when it does, there's this element But the best part, and why I think he came up with this, why I think John Hughes kind of ran with this, was whenever it happened to me when I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
The amount of human experience. Let's call it experience. Let's not call it vicious insults, fights, aggravation.
That's fair.
The amount of human experience that came from it was immense.
Yeah.
And I'm known as a Pollyanna.
Yeah.
I'm a very positive person.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how much that frustrates some people.
Yeah.
Because we'll just be sitting there and they'll be like, well, great, we can't get back for a whole other day. And I'm like, at least the car has a heater. We're not going to be cold tonight.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but there's nothing to eat. I'm like, I got 3 candy bars out of the vending machine before I ran out of ones.
There you go.
And they're like, and I'm like, you can have 2 of them. That's okay. Like, that is literally what I was like. And this is back when like vending machines didn't have credit card swipers. So it would literally be like, all there is a vending machine and all you have is the change on the bottom of your car floor.
Yeah.
It's not even that you're broke. It's that you don't have access to cash. So that's another reason I really like this movie, because I've traveled this country many, many times driving. I've taken the Greyhound bus 15, 16 hours straight. Have you ever done the Greyhound?
I've done a Greyhound once, and it's been
How far did you go?
6 hours.
Where'd you go? Dayton, Ohio to where?
From Columbus to Michigan, I believe it was.
So to Traverse?
Yeah, Traverse.
So I took it from Dayton, Ohio to Rochester, New York.
Shit.
It's like I want to say it's actually about 18 hours.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
I can imagine.
That's why I laugh so hard when we watch it. And he goes, "Have you ever traveled on a bus before?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Your mood's not going to
change.
Yeah, your mood's probably not going to improve." So anyway, sorry, but that's why I think this movie connects with so many people, and why I could totally see an incredibly creative person like John Hughes sitting there after that experience and going, I gotta, like, literally, I bet you that during that experience, on the first 2 days he was trying to get home, I bet you he was like, God, I miss my wife. God, I miss my kids. Like, I can't wait to see my wife. But I bet you by day 5, he was like, I gotta get to my typewriter. I have to write a script about this.
So going back to Hughes and our cast, would you like to play the game of who was almost in Planes, Trains that Hughes wanted?
Did you mean,
So supposedly, Hughes wanted Tom Hanks to play Neal Page and John Travolta to play Del Griffith. But the studio said no to Travolta because he was, quote, box office poison at this point.
What had he done at that point that made him box office poison?
I'm going to guess it would have been, so for Paramount, let's see if this is 87.
Yeah, 87. So, wait,
man.
Because hadn't he done like, at that point he would have done
Blowout.
Look Who's Talking would have already done that, right? That was a hit.
I would think, yeah. Let me check. Because I believe that I'm trying to think at this point, he would have been, Grease would have been his big one, of course, it would have brought him. And then in regards to the 80s for him.
Yeah, I'm really curious why he would be box office.
So Blowout in 81, Staying Alive in 83, Two of a Kind in 83, Perfect in 85.
I don't remember that movie.
Look Who's Talking is actually 2 years later. 89.
Oh, okay, so that was his comeback movie then.
Perfect was probably the one that bombed him. That's the one with him and Jamie Lee Curtis as the aerobics instructors.
Yeah, nobody remembers that.
No, it's
rightfully so.
Notoriously a bad movie. But then on top of that, there was also rumored to be Dudley Moore, Bill Murray, and Robin Williams for Del.
Really? Of all of them, I could only see Robin Williams.
Yeah, and then this is the one that kicks me, is Chevy Chase or Keaton for Neal Page.
I could totally see Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
I could see Keaton as well, but I couldn't see Keaton saying yes to that role at that point.
Not at all.
Because he was sitting there like, listen, asshole, I'm about to be Batman. I'm Batman. But like, so if let's say he got Travolta to be Del Griffith.
Yeah.
And for those listening, that's John Candy's role.
Yes.
I want to make that clear to you guys in case, not everybody speaks fluent planes, trains, and automobiles like we do. How do you think well, first of all, I think Travolta could have done something interesting with it, probably.
Yeah.
Because he's a very good actor.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Like, would he be in a fat suit? Do you think he would have grown a big beard or something? Like, do you think he would have tried to hide that he was John Travolta?
See, I think at this point, Travolta's still eye candy. So I don't know if they would. I don't think they would fatten him up.
No, I think they would have to.
They would have to
make him Del Griffith. Because it's not like they cast John Candy in his usual role.
Yeah.
I mean, because Candy is, yes, he's the wild guy in this, and Steve Martin's the straight man.
Yeah.
But Candy is still relatively subdued.
Mm-hmm.
It's some of the best John Candy. The thing that I love about John Candy in this film is we have all these movies where he's all like wide-eyed and goofy and you laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
But there are multiple scenes in that movie where his eyes tell the entire story. There's that part where, remember when they're in the hotel room toward the end of the film, and he says, at the end of the day, bare minimum, you have a woman to go home to who loves you. And the way he smiles, he's like, yes. And he's like, but his eyes are like way off.
Love is not a big enough word to describe it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And also when he's sitting in the car alone, just the scene before that, and he says like, well, guess I screwed this up too.
Marie.
Yeah. Guess that's not going to happen. Like, he's such a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Steve Martin, I mean, he does a great job in it, but I feel like he got so many opportunities to be more than what people knew him as.
Yeah.
Obviously, he also had like a 5 times longer career.
Yeah.
And nothing against him. It's just, but Del Griffith is the heart and soul of the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll get to my other point in a minute.
Okay.
So, because I don't want to get, I could get emotional.
I get it. So let's get into the movie. So we open with Neal Page is at an executive meeting, and he is sitting with Ferris Bueller's dad in this office, and this guy is at the head of the table, who is the owner of the company, looking at these 2 cover shots.
Well, he's the owner of the company who hired his firm to make a marketing campaign.
Yeah. And he can't decide on these 2 covers. And you see Martin is trying to basically leave the office because he's got a ticket for O'Hare. He's going to fly out at 6. And
because it's Monday and Thanksgiving's on
2 days before Thanksgiving.
Oh, it's 2 days, so it'd be Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So literally, he finds out that they're going to hold off until after the holiday to make the decision. He races off to the airport, and in doing so, he has to catch a cab. And that's when we meet a very young Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, and they make eye contact in what I can only describe as a man who lived on the East Coast.
Yeah.
The most New York City scene I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just 2 men locking eyes across the way. He's on the other side of the street on the sidewalk, and they both know they have
non-verbal
to
agreement.
beat each other to get the hell out of Dodge. Because there's that whole part, where he's like, I got to go. Because he has a 6 o'clock flight.
6 o'clock ticket,
which is just insane to make while working a full day.
Well, even his buddy says
you'll never make the 6.
You'll never make the 6.
Yeah.
So he goes racing, and unfortunately, Bacon gets the cab, and so Martin tries to hail down another cab with this lawyer guy, and in doing so, Griffith comes up and takes the cab from both the guys while they're negotiating.
Yeah, he doesn't even notice that they're there. He's aloof, and that's one of the big things about Del.
Yeah,
is Del is aloof.
Yeah,
he has no desire to be rude or to be combative, but he is very aloof.
He's very aloof. So fast forward a little bit, they get to the airport, and Steve Martin's sitting in the waiting room across from Del, and he keeps seeing this guy that he recognizes, and then they flash back to the shot where Martin actually at one point chases after the cab, opens the door, and calls him a son of a bitch.
Yeah, and he goes, oh!
And you get this look from Candy. So then he's like, Candy's like, I know you, don't I? And that's when Martin tells him he stole his cab. And he's like, well, that doesn't sound like me at all.
I've never stolen anything in my life.
It's good to point out, too, that Candy, like we said, has this trunk the entire movie. And at one point, when they lift the trunk up, there's one of the shower curtain rings in the puddle where the taxi was.
No, there are all kinds of little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah. So long story short, the 2 don't necessarily hit it off because Martin, through the first, I would say 20, 30 minutes of this is just wanting to get home, not deal with anybody, and he's just fed up.
Well, yeah, he's a studious man. He's trying to get home to see his family. And and also think about this. It took so long for him to get back.
Yeah.
He had a long weekend.
Yeah.
He was going to be able to he was going to get home on Tuesday night before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And not have to be back in the office till Monday.
Yeah. He was going to have a nice
by the way,
weekend.
I'm self-employed. That sounds amazing. I would love to have a off Tuesday before Thanksgiving and back at work on Monday.
Yeah.
But yet here I am recording a podcast with Dave.
Well, the best thing too about the scene is Candy feels so bad, and he's like, let me get you a coffee, a beer,
a Slurpee,
glass of milk, and then going back.
Oh, what about a hot dog then?
Going back to those deleted scenes, there's an extension of this scene specifically where he looks over at Candy, and Candy is just holding this giant chili dog, smoking a cigarette.
Yes, at the same. They cut a lot of him smoking cigarettes out.
Yeah, they did, and so long story short, Martin gets to the plane. He has a first class assignment, realizes he's been bumped, and he's in a coach seating, gets to his seat, and guess who he's sitting right next to?
Isn't this funny?
Isn't this a coincidence?
Oh, yeah. What a coincidence this is.
So then the two of them sit down, and he's trying to make conversation with Steve Martin's character. And again, Martin just wants nothing to do with it. He just wants to get home. And then Candy starts taking his shoes off, takes his socks
and starts waving them around.
Oh, my dogs are barking.
My dogs are barking. So New York City, I tell you,
they fly. They get the plane goes off. They end up having to detour to Wichita because there's a huge snowstorm that moves in, and now they realize that all the hotels are booked. There's no flights. There's no hotels, and we get to see a very young Ben Stein announce that the flights are canceled and then smile at everyone.
Which is I guarantee you that is such a directory gag to have him do it and be like, action, good Ben. How about on this one? Just give a smile at the end. Why would I do it? Just do for fun. Like, act like you loved saying it. And then they used that one, and it is very memorable because of it. Yeah. Well, at that point, hadn't Ben Stein been in Bueller? Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
So,
it was either year before or the year after this. Because, you have E. McClure, Ben Stein, and Lyman Woodward, who are 3 alumni from Ferris Bueller that made it into this one, too.
Right.
So, we basically then are treated to one of the best scenes where they go to get into a guy's taxi. His name is Doobie. And
Doobie's taxi.
Doobie is played by the great Larry Hankin, and he has a comb over. He's got his taxi.
It's not a comb over. That's like a full pompadour with pomade. It's like 3.5 feet high. Okay, no, it's like 2 inches, 3 inches off his head. And his taxi is just adorned with
nude women, Christmas lights, knickknacks.
It's the inside of like your best friend in high school's burnout older brother's basement pad.
Yeah.
Like after he just decorated it so chicks would like it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, that's what he thinks. I mean, it ain't going to be what chicks are going to like, but
And again, going back to the deleted scenes, this is when we watched these for the first time last year, that this deleted scene in particular, like, well, I wonder why they cut this. Not really.
Yeah.
Because Doobie is in the theatrical cut, they drive in the taxi, he's taking the long roads around, and then about like 2 minutes later, they get to the Braidwood Inn. The extended sequence is like 10 minutes longer. Doobie straight up threatens Martin to kill him, and then at one point, John Candy's like, now, Doobie, you don't mean that. It's
Doobie,
silly.
you don't mean that.
It's silly to think those thoughts. It's silly to think this. Wait, Doobie, are you driving around in circles again? Because they revealed that he's been driving around to extend the meter.
Yeah, because he gets paid by the mile.
Yeah.
Actually, a funny story, really, a quick side note. I was in Chicago a couple weeks back, or maybe a month ago, and I had a Uber driver, and the Uber driver was telling me how, oh no, he was a nice guy. I like it. Dave just went, the working class.
Because I remember when you and John were in a taxi, or when Uber together.
Well, that was John's fault, but that was his fault. He put the wrong address in. But no, the driver was telling me that the hardest part about that job is that people don't understand it's not a taxi.
Yeah.
So when he gets in and doesn't follow the computer because he knows a faster way, they're like, hey, don't do that. And he's like, you already agreed to the price. Yeah. I can't run the meter up. There's no meter. There's no meter. Of course, he said it in a thick accent that I'm not going to replicate. But,
fair enough.
But yeah, he was like, there's no meter. Like, I'm just going the way I know is faster. So, Doobie is dubious.
Doobie is dubious indeed. So they get to the Braidwood End, and they have to, you find out they have to share a room because there's no rooms available except for one. So they share a room, they get into the room, and then we've realized that there is one bed in the room.
One singular bed. And I wouldn't even call it a queen, I'd call it a full.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, not a twin.
No,
it's full.
It's small, and the look they share, because Martin's panning the room, and then goes back to the one bed, and then it cuts to Candy, and he's just like,
he just has this look on his face,
grin.
Like, yep. Okay.
So we get to the funniest sequence then, which is the bathroom sequence. So they're unloading and everything, and Martin's in the shower. John Candy has done his bathroom duties, and they're waiting for the food to be delivered. And you find out that Candy has used up all the towels except for a washcloth.
Except for one. And when David says washcloth, he means a washcloth, like a little.
Yeah, a little.
It is the size of, like, the envelope you get from the IRS when they decide they're going to fuck you. So.
And also in this scene too, there's just water all over the bathroom floor. Like, it is flooded almost. And Martin said that he actually got athletes for the first time since his teens shooting that scene.
Well, knowing what I know about grips and gaffers, I believe that.
So he gets out of the shower, and Candy has so this is where we had one of the best deleted scenes of all, is there's a pizza delivery guy that rolls into the Braidwood Inn because Candy orders a pizza that is the most disgusting pizza that has garbanzo beans, corn, and all this stuff on it.
Yeah, it's got so much stuff on it that I've just never even heard of on pizza.
No.
And I lived in Jersey.
Yeah.
Where they make amazing, I mean, like, I got a broccoli pie once that was amazing. But anyway.
So the pizza guy comes to the door, knocks on it, and Candy's in the bathroom at this point with Martin, and he's like, door's open. He's like, well, no, it's not. And for like 2 minutes, they go back and forth, and then Candy goes to the door, opens the door, and you realize the pizza guy's on the wrong side of the hallway.
Yes.
Because he's like, what room are you looking for?
Yes.
114. Yes. What's that door say? 111. He turns around.
Oh.
So this is where we talked about their characters. Candy lays into this pizza guy. Like,
yeah, he's really rude.
Really insults him and everything. And like I said, this is the extended scene. This isn't in the movie. This isn't in the final cut. So we get to the scene where Martin and Candy are laying in bed, and you find out that the beers exploded on the bed. There's a vibrating bed.
Yeah, he turned on the massage setting. Yeah. Which for those who've never had the luxury of taking a fine young woman or a confused young man to a fine vibrating bed.
Yeah.
It's a sign of pure quality.
Absolutely. So the beer's exploded. Martin has to lay in a bed that's just full of beer at this point, and then Candy is smoking a cigarette in bed. He's cracking his neck. He's cracking his knuckles. He's clearing his throat, and Martin has had it and lays into him and basically says, you've been under my skin since the moment that we left the airport, and just continues to knock him down. And that's when Candy does, oh my God.
But here's something I want to mention that's really interesting about the film. So Steve Martin lays into him, says, like, you're fat, you're stupid, you're cheap, you smoke, you're a slob, you do all these things, and he just like really beats him down.
Yeah.
And then John Candy defends himself with that incredible speech about, I'm the genuine article, what you see is what you get. Yeah. I like me, my clients, my customers like me, my wife likes me.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But what I think is more special about this movie, as we're talking about it now, than talking about what he says, is when this happens in the movie.
Yeah.
It's dead in the middle.
Yeah.
Usually this is the kind of thing you would see right around the third act, or maybe even the middle,
second act.
Maybe even the middle of the third act.
Yeah.
Because that would institute like the moment where the characters are tired of each other and then they come back together.
Yeah.
But instead, we have it right in the middle. It gets it all out so quickly that then you have this moment where you're like, well, what happens next? And that's where John Hughes really shines, because he's like, well, what happens next is humanity.
Humanity, indeed.
And that's where we go from there. And that's one of the reasons I love this movie is it's John Hughes, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions, is a master of formula.
Yeah.
He's a master of efficient storytelling.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, this is how it has to go this time.
And a brilliant move to make it, because at this point you get the flare up of the music, you get Del delivering this amazing monologue, and then the two of them get back into bed, and differences aside, they go to sleep. Well, then in the theatrical cut, you think this guy is just a random robber. It's the pizza guy.
Yeah, the pizza guy comes back. So in the film, the guy who comes into their room and robs them, steals their money while they're asleep, is actually the pizza guy returning for revenge for being treated like an idiot. Granted, he was an idiot, but and apparently a thief.
And a thief. So the next morning, they decide that they've got to find a way back home, and Candy finds out that he's got a buddy in the railroad, and they decide that they're going to hop a train and try to make it the rest of the way. And that's when we get the film debut, and one of the best debuts, of Dylan Baker, who was in Trick or Treat, Happiness as the pedophile.
Yes.
But film debut as Owen, who is the son of Gus, who comes into the parking lot in
and
his
he looks
truck.
terrifying.
Yes,
he is sincerely so intimidating as he walks up. Shower curtain fella.
Shower curtain fella.
No, it's a great. And he references pigs.
Yeah,
and then he's like snorting like a pig with a mouth full of chew. And this sequence is also great because one of the elements that plays a role in every decision is Del has been everywhere in America as a traveling salesman. Therefore, he has a friend everywhere.
Yeah.
Like when he gets to the Braidwood Inn, the dude is thrilled to see him.
Yeah, he is.
So usually when he goes somewhere and people know Del, they're always happy to see him.
Yeah.
Of course, Del is also, I don't want to say he's like a sucker, but he's well-meaning and he'll accept whatever he gets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that definitely pisses off his travel companion.
It does indeed, because so they have to go to Stubbsville, or no, People Train, is it Stubbsville?
Stubbsville.
Yeah, Stubbsville's where they have to go.
People Train don't run out of Wichita,
Yeah.
unless you're a cattle or a hog.
So they have to go to Stubbsville, so they have to climb into the back of this pickup, and that's when Candy's like, it's a little farther than our original destination. How much farther? 60, 70 miles, no more than 75, no more than 90.
Definitely under 90. And as they're driving along, they're freezing to death.
They're freezing.
How cold do you think it is out here?
One.
One.
So they get to the train, they get on the train, and basically you think they're going to part ways because Neal wishes Del well.
Because Neal tells him we're parting ways.
Yeah, and they get on the train. The train breaks down, and then they have to now meet up again.
Well, he sees Del dragging his giant trunk by himself and just says, and picks it up.
Yeah, because the train breaks down.
They're all walking through farmland that is not currently because it's November.
Yeah.
So their farm is done tilling and cultivating for the season. So they're all walking across giant hunks of sod. And it's a really cool scene.
It really is.
And so now we've done our plane.
We've done our train.
And
now we're going to go and try to get on
the first of two automobiles.
Yes, the first of two automobiles. So they decide that Neal decides that he's going to try to get a rental car. Or no, wait, this is the bus, isn't it?
No, this is the bus. Yeah,
this is the bus.
They all walk to a bus station.
Yeah, so they get in the bus station and they're singing songs like 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall and the Flintstones, and then Neal tries to do one, which is 3 Coins in a Fountain by Frank Sinatra, and the whole bus turns around and looks at him, and he stops dead in his track.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. That's the most you can sing before we get sued.
Fair enough. So they get to the airport. Neal decides he's going to rent a car, and then we are treated to probably what is the most famous scene of the movie, I would say, because this is where it gets its R rating.
Oh, yeah. So he gets dropped off. He gets dropped off at the where his rental car is.
Yes.
And it's like a massive parking lot, the size of like several malls.
Yeah.
And as he arrives, there is no car in the spot, but there's like tire marks, like it's been peeled out.
Yes.
Which I love that, because that's just just extra insult to injury. That's like, well, there was a car here at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So now he has to walk back. He can't get the shuttle to pick him up.
No, he misses the shuttle.
Yeah.
So he has to walk across the runway. It's freezing cold at this point. He has to go down ramps, and he actually falls down.
He almost gets smashed by a semi-truck.
Yeah.
More than once in this movie.
His briefcase gets smashed more than once as well, too. So he gets to the rental place, and Edie McClurg, in one of her best roles, is talking on the phone to what we understand as a family member, talking about the Thanksgiving dinner, not paying any mind to him, and he's got his tie tied around his ears.
Yeah, he's trying to stay warm. And I also want to point out, she could be a lot crummier to him.
Yeah, she could be.
She's literally, because when he walks up and he says, "Excuse me," she just gives him the finger, the 1 second finger.
Yeah.
And then says, "All right, bye." Like, she just had fun. And then she was like, "How may I help you?" And then she notices he like looks really rough. So she's actually not even that bad.
No, she's not.
But at this point, Neal is
done.
Full rage addicted. And because he opens with the first thing you can do is wipe that smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. And this is where the film guarantees its R rating.
19 F-bombs.
He says that word 19 times.
19 times.
I want a fucking car right fucking now.
Actually, he says it 18 because Edie McClurg replies back with, "May I see your rental agreement?" I threw it away. Oh boy. Oh boy, what? You're fucked.
And that's it's one of the best scenes. And I love the idea that I bet you Hughes purposely was like, let's not have any other F words.
Yeah.
That way that scene stands out.
I can fully believe that. So at this point, now he has to leave, and he goes out to get a rental car, and that's when he insults the rental car provider guy.
No, it's not a rental car. He's getting a taxi.
Oh, he's getting a taxi,
and that's the thing, because he says, like, I want to get a taxi. He's like, where to? And he's like, Chicago. And he's like,
Chicago?
Airlines are faster, and you get a free meal.
If I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John. And then this guy lays him out,
punches him, and he falls into the road and almost gets his head run over
a second time.
But the car stops, and out gets the driver, Del Griffith.
So Del is chastising him for laying in the road, asking what happened, and the taxi driver's like, "Get out of here!" And he's like, "You insensitive asshole, help my friend." He's like, "With pleasure." picks Martin up by his
testicles. Yeah, and just pulls him away. Boy, good thing that cop showed up when he did. Otherwise, you'd have to lift your schniz to tie your shoes.
Martin in the next scene in the car just has a high-pitched
voice. I mean, it's probably the silliest joke in the movie, but
really
I do enjoy it.
So then we get to the two of them driving in this car together, and Candy is driving it first, and he is and sitting next to Martin, of course, and he's messing with is it Candy's? Martin's driving first, I think. I'm trying to think.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Candy basically breaks the seat. Yeah. So there gets to a point where Candy's driving and he wants to take his coat off, but he also before this has done one of the other famous scenes in this where he does Ray Charles mess around while he's playing it while Martin sleeps in the car next to him, and he's getting into it. And they even did another version of it in Ted 2, because I remember when you and I saw that in theaters, we were both shocked.
Well, I mean, that was a great scene.
So he smoking a cigarette, he throws it out the window, it goes into the backseat unaware, and he starts to get hot because the cigarette starts to burn away at the car at this point.
Well, and if you're driving in the winter, the cars get hot.
So he tries to take his coat off, it gets wrapped around the seat, so now he's got both his hands stuck, he can't do anything. The car does a full 180 and goes onto the other side of the road, unaware of them, wakes Neal up, and Neal's like, it's a little hot in here, you should take your jacket off.
Well, what happens is he goes off the off ramp.
Yeah.
And then when he gets back on, he's so distracted, he goes the wrong way. Yeah.
And so they're driving down the wrong way, and we see these two people in a car next to them on the other street, and they're like, oh my God, they're going the wrong way. So they start honking, trying to get their attention.
You're going the wrong way.
You're going to kill somebody.
I love the first time they say, oh, you're going the wrong way. He's like, how do they know where we're going?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Candy does an impression of them drinking.
Yeah, he thinks they're drunk,
So,
like, oh, this Joker wants to race.
Yeah, he thinks they want to race. So then they look forward, and two semis are going simultaneously side by side. The car goes between the semis, and while they're doing this, Martin looks over at Candy. Candy has now turned into a devil who's laughing, which is my shirt, by the way.
Yeah, Dave is wearing that shirt. And then they're both skeletons. There's all kinds of like subliminal edits and stuff. Yeah.
So the car gets completely just demolished between these two semis. They're off on the side of the road, and that's when he gets out and reveals that, unfortunately, Dell took Neal's diner's card out of his wallet
by accident. He took his credit card
and rented the car with it. So now this pisses off Martin because
that's after they realize the car's also on fire.
The car's also on fire at this point. Yeah, because the cigarette's fully caught it now.
Yeah.
So they get into a fight, and they end up getting the car back on the road, and they go to this new little cabin area, and they go inside. Their credit cards are melted, their wallets are melted. They have like little to no cash, and the owner of the inn comes out, and he's like, what can I do for you? They want a room. And at this point,
no, they don't want a room.
Oh yeah,
Neal wants
a room. Yeah,
one room.
You get your own room. You pay for your own room. Damn it. So then he only had the cost is $42.50 because at one hilarious point he takes out the credit cards because he's like, let me charge, and he lays down Visa,
diners, and a gasoline card,
and they're just singed.
And he's like,
gone.
These aren't credit card.
So he denies him, and he's like, how much is the room? $42.50. And he's like, $17 and a hell of a nice watch. So he gives him the watch, and then he gets his room.
And it is a gold watch.
It's a very nice watch. So Candy goes up, and he's like, I need a room too. He's like, I've got $2 and a nice Casio.
And it's like the kind of watch you would expect Del Griffith to be wearing.
Yes. So Martin's in the room, and Del's sleeping outside. There's a snowstorm that starts falling. And during this whole movie, Del has talked about his wife, Marie, very, very little.
Except that he's crazy about her. He has a photo of her that he always puts on his bed on the nightstand wherever he's sleeping.
Yeah. So he's talking to her, and he's like, well, Marie, I did it again. I found a friend, and I smothered the poor soul. And that's when Martin goes out, opens the door, and sees the snow falling. He's like, you're gonna freeze out there, invites him in, and then we're treated to one of you and I's all-time favorite scenes. The two of them have basically let bygones be bygones, and they've gotten into the minibar together.
Oh yes, Well, and I get where Steve Martin's coming from, because he's like, I paid like $600 for this room because I gave up my watch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to raid this mini bar.
Yeah.
So they're just drinking like tequila and rum and eating
Fritos and
tiny
Doritos.
Dorito bags. Yeah. Is this a good combo or what? It's a
Probably
Doritos,
not.
Doritos and a tequila. Probably not.
So they get into a discussion about, haven't been home in years is what Del says. And he's like, at the very most, at the very least, you have a woman to grow old with and that you love. And, he delivers just this, this, love is not a big enough word for what I feel for my wife.
Yeah. Del definitely cares about his wife a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, they are, and I want to mention real quick before we get to that. Also, like as they're laughing, it's time to go to bed. It literally feels like I'm watching them in summer camp.
Yeah, because Martin even says that. Yeah,
it's like this is like summer camp, and Del opens the bathroom door to laugh some more, and then closes it.
They're everywhere.
I loved it. I loved it.
So the next morning they've got to leave,
and they get in the car, and it's stuck in the snow.
Yeah,
but then as they're rocking it, it accidentally backs up.
Yep,
and just punches through
the hotel.
Now, the reason I love that scene so much, because it's very broad humor. It's not the kind of humor that I think makes this movie special.
Yeah.
The reason I love it is because then it cuts to a close up. It cuts to a close up of Steve Martin. And he goes, "Oh," like because he's mad. He's still mad. He gave up his gold watch. Yeah. He's still mad. So I love that little moment. Oh, let's go. And then when they pull away, I also love that as they turn out, they had the wrong blinker. They had the blinker going the other way.
It's so good. So they're going down the road. The car is a piece of shit at this point, completely destroyed. The tires are bouncing. The car's scraped, and then they end up getting pulled over by Michael McKean as a state trooper. He asks them if they think the car is drivable. It is not. And then this is the deleted scene that we still have not found. So what happens is in the deleted scene, they decide they find out that they've driven 3 hours past Chicago. They're in Wisconsin.
No, they drove right past it. I thought they drove the wrong way. They were driving away from Chicago.
He says they overshot it from what I could find. Yeah. And then that's when they get into like a physical fight, and then that's why Candy in the one scene has a black eye. That's where it came from.
I remember hearing that because in the next scene after they're kind of trapped,
they're impounded.
We go, and this is one thing I love this movie, and this is an example of how it flies by.
Yeah,
even though we're taking over an hour to talk about it, because that at that moment, then the next scene is they're sitting there after the car has been impounded until it can be made, safe to drive on the state highway. And then Candy pulls up and he's with a truck driver and he's like, "Come on, we're going to ride it. He's going to give us a ride to Chicago. It's straight through." And he's like, "Oh, we can't sit up there." He has a weird thing about that. And he has a black eye while he's saying all that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people take that to assume that like the truck driver punched him or something. So now they're in, I believe it was a cheese or milk.
Oh my gosh. Oshmagosh or whatever.
Oshmagosh was, I can't remember if it was cheese or butter or something.
Yeah, it's cheese.
So now they're sitting in the back of a refrigerated truck in winter.
Yes.
And they're heading straight into Chicago.
Yeah.
They finally made it to the Windy City. They finally made it where Neal's family is and where we assume Del's family is.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And now we get to the bus or to the train station. And it's the rail system in Chicago, which Chicago was a very nice rail system.
Yeah.
And that is when the movie takes a turn, in my opinion, from being a good comedy to being a phenomenal film.
Absolute masterpiece in my opinion.
And I don't use words like masterpiece lightly.
Yeah.
And I stand by it here.
Yeah.
So now as Neal gets I could talk about this scene forever.
Mm-hmm.
As Neal gets on the train and he's heading home, he starts thinking about what he's looking forward to. He sees his little kids because he's got a daughter and a son and a little boy who's maybe a year old.
Yeah.
And he imagines, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And he imagines the dinner, he imagines seeing his wife and smiling, and then he flashes back to Del kissing his ear in the hotel.
But that's the thing, is they made it the way human memory works.
Yeah.
He thinks about embracing his wife, which then makes him think about when Del and him embraced.
Yeah.
And then he kind of chuckles about it. But as he's remembering more and more about the time together, he realizes that the thing he never noticed was that Del is so lonely.
Yeah. No, he is. And like we said earlier, we get Marie mentioned throughout the movie, but we never really get more than just, I love her, she's the best, I always love her. And then that's when he returns to the train station, and lo and behold, there's Del sitting.
Yeah, Del's just sitting because he has nowhere to go. He has no end of the line.
Yeah.
He's just, when he was headed to Chicago, it was just to keep being on the road.
Yeah, with him.
And when he says, "What are you doing here?" he tells him Marie's been dead 7 years.
Yeah. And Marie's been dead for 8 years.
And he just never went home.
Yeah. He says, "I have no home." And then that's when Martin just gets this look of he's just so sad for him. And then he looks up, and then we cut.
The music swells.
Yes. We
every
cut
time you go away.
Them carrying the trunk down the street towards Neal's house.
Which was throughout the entire film the symbol of Neal showing Dell kindness was always helping him.
The trunk.
And to me, symbolically, that was about helping a person carry the weight of their emotions.
Yeah, I absolutely
agree. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking into it too much. I don't give a shit.
I think that's dead on.
I mean, do I have to hit the I'm right again button?
Go ahead.
Enrique is right and also handsome.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. But no, so now they're walking down the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're walking down Neal's neighborhood, which is a beautiful neighborhood.
Yes.
Full of big houses. And that's one of my favorite lines, because as they're walking up to the house, he goes, wow, you're a lucky guy, Neal. And then as they walk up, he's like, I'll just stay and say hello, real quick or whatever. He's like, just come on, Dell.
Yeah.
And I love it because they open the door and, his whole family's there and they're happy to see him. And his wife is there and she has tears in her eyes. And then also it's mostly edited out of the movie, but there is a little hint of his wife thinking maybe he's fooling around.
Infidelity,
So when she sees Dell, who he's described to her on the phone, and she says, hello, Mr. Griffith, and he goes, hello, Mrs. Page. There's that moment where she realizes, like, my husband isn't a liar, and, and now he's here.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer. I've been making movies a long time, and that's my day job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer that that what tells the audience what the movie was about is the last thing you show and when you end.
Yeah.
And the movie, I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But at the end, after everybody's hugging and kissing, it cuts to Dell, and Dell smiles, and it freeze frames. That 80s freeze frame we all fucking love, or at least I do. It freezes. And then it fades out to show that Dell found what he needed.
Yeah.
Because the movie wasn't about getting Neal home for the holidays. It was about Dell finding something that was deeply missing from his life.
100%.
And that, my dear listener, I pray you've already listened or seen the movie before we talk about it. But that, my dear listener, is what makes this movie for me a 5-star film. It makes me want to watch it every year when I'm with my loved ones. It makes me want to, I'm sorry, like I'm now, fuck it. This is my movie podcast. God damn it. This is what makes movies great.
Yeah.
This is a movie that makes you want to be a better person. Because it's a movie that reminds you that all of your problems are yours, but people have their own problems, and sometimes you get so self-absorbed that you don't realize that in front of you is somebody who really needs your help.
Yeah.
Because the whole movie is Dell helping Neal get home.
Absolutely
it's not ever. I mean, Neal helping Dell is just carrying the trunk.
Yeah.
So that's the other element. So, just the fact that when he's finally almost home is the first time Neal actually gets to sit and think about the other guy's life and what he's been saying this whole time.
Yeah.
And then realizes that he really cares about it.
He absolutely does.
It's the essence of Thanksgiving. It's the essence of the holidays. It's the essence of humanity.
And
I love it.
It's a John Hughes 5-star staple. Like, this is prime Hughes, because that's the one thing I've always loved about John Hughes is he's really good at the comedy, but he's really good at also showing you the mirror and being like, hey, can you relate to this character, or have you taken into account like some of the people in your life that relate to these characters and not thought about their story in a sense.
And then the response is, well, no, I'm a vampire and I don't understand why you're holding this mirror in front of me. I find it offensive.
But no, John Hughes is just, I mean, he has so many wins under his belt. And I mean, even some of his movies that aren't really well known, like I really love Curly Sue. That's one I want to show you.
Curly Sue's a lot of...
you've seen it, okay.
Well, I mean, I saw it as a kid. I'd love to watch it again.
Oh, we can absolutely do that. But yeah. But I mean, to bring it all home, Planes, Trains is a perfect Thanksgiving film. It's a perfect family film, minus the one scene, but I'm sure all your kids know F-bombs.
You know what? How do you make a family? Through fucking. Let the F word fly. Come on.
And with that in mind, I am going to give this here on Do You Even Movie. We have 3 ratings for when we have our finals. It's either a buy it, a rent it, or a stream it.
Yes. And of course, because stream it would mean watch it when you have access to it.
Yeah.
Rent it would mean drop a couple coins to watch it, but don't own it. And then, of course, own it would mean this is something you will want to revisit many, many, many times.
Absolutely. And this is a buy it. This is, we cannot recommend enough that 4K with the 54 minutes of deleted scenes.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. It's something that Planes, Trains fans thought they'd never get.
Yeah. And you've got a retrospective on Candy. You got a retrospective on John Hughes. You've got a panel, a really cool little panel they did after they showed a bunch of critics the movie that is little interviews and stuff with Candy and whatnot. It's super, super fun. But with that in mind, we also try to do you one more recommend, and I'm going to cheat this time because I'm going to give you 2 recommends.
Nope. Show's over.
Too late.
It's nope. Where is it?
Please, no, David.
So Dutch 1991 is another film that is a Thanksgiving movie that has a lot of that tie with having the road trip, but also finding yourself and finding the friends you have along the way too.
Yes. And Dutch is a great one. Stars Ed O'Neill from Married with Children, Ethan Embry from a lot of stuff, but he's a boy. He's a young
Ethan
boy.
Randall.
And can't recommend it enough. And it just started streaming again.
Yes, it is.
So you can
available.
find it. So if you get a chance to watch Dutch, it is, in my opinion, it's a lot lighter, but still very sentimental, very John Hughes style.
Yeah.
Totally worth watching.
Totally future episode.
I don't know if you noticed. I've noticed on social media people are rediscovering
it because
it's on Max.
It's so awesome. I love that. And then the other recommendation I'm going to give is one I know you like too.
Oh boy,
2017's All Nighter with Emile Hirsch and J.K. Simmons.
Oh, I love that movie.
Such a good movie. And kind of the same turn. You have a workaholic father who attempts to visit his daughter during a layover in L.A. only to discover that she's disappeared, and he is forced to team up with her awkward ex-boyfriend to find her over the course of one transformative night. Super fun, super heartfelt, and honestly, nobody knows that movie. So I
rented it when it first came out.
Yeah, I would love for more people to find All Nighter. But that, my friends, is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 1987 John Hughes classic, perfect for your Thanksgiving lineup this year.
And thanks for stomping over me. I would also say buy it. He doesn't ask me.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
I know where I stand with you.
Well, I didn't think you were gonna say, no, just rent it. It's fine.
Yeah, just stream it if you can find it or whatever. No, I say buy it.
Absolutely.
I can't get enough of those sound effects.
So do you have anything else that you would like to say?
Well, I will say that Thanksgiving movies, I do hope that they attract more audiences. I hope that we get more Thanksgiving movies.
Absolutely.
If you get a chance, you should check out Awkward Thanksgiving. That's my Thanksgiving movie. Yes. I'm very proud of it. And I just appreciate everybody checking out our inaugural episode of Do You Even Movie.
Thank you.
We'll be back next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. In fact, we could say see you next Tuesday. That's not an appropriate joke. But we'll be back next Tuesday with even more movies, and we're going to go. And thank you to everybody from the Freddy's Nightmares podcast we've been doing who's joining us on this adventure.
We appreciate it dearly.
If you want to check out more, learn out more, go to Do You Even Movie podcast. Or sorry, I think it's doyouevenmovie.com. I just bought it, okay? It's doyouevenmovie.com. And you can email us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear suggestions, recommendations, anything like that. But now we're going to get out of here because I am eyeing some leftovers.
And leftovers? Are you sure those aren't pillows?
Who the fuck eats pillows? I hate David. I hate him. Until next time, kids.
We'll see ya.
Bye. Oh, they're still booing, Dave. They got your number.